Hey you guys, welcome to another video. You can call me Kay. This is Opinions and Not Facts, where I literally just ramble and run my mouth, and no, I'm not providing any evidence. I will provide links to videos if you want to watch them, but I'm literally just here to rant about the things that I know that are in my head. There's no facts, there's no supporting evidence, it's just one girl saying things she probably shouldn't. Today I want to talk about the Salem witch trials, religious zealotism, and how the modern day version of the puritanistic zealotism that we saw back then is alive and well in creators like McClung. Bold statement, I know. I'm about to really throw my hat in the ring and say some pretty audacious things, but you know what? I'm mad enough and I'm passionate enough about it that I have to rant. And because no one should be watching these videos except for that one friend who I gave the link, hi, I can say whatever I want until it bites me in the butt. And look, I'm going to say some pretty harsh things, and I understand I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. I do a lot of these things too. I am not above reproach, but hey, when I see it, I'm going to call it. I'm joined in here by my cat. He may have some words for the audience, some thoughts on this whole thing. What do you say, sir? Do you have any thoughts? Anyway, here's your completely inaccurate and half-baked summarization of the issue. I don't know everything. I've watched some videos on it, but you know what? It made me so mad that I could not continue through everything, get every piece of information. Also, this is opinions, not facts. So if you want to know details, you should probably be looking to someone who actually is going to provide them. All right, so here's what happened. Two YouTubers, Cataclysm and McClung, got together and they started theorizing that due to his proximity to a known women mishandler, I am Alex, that Dinky Jabbo, his editor, must be associated not just work-wise with I'm Alex, but must share similar viewpoints in how to handle young women. They have supported this theory with the following really hard-hitting journalistic arguments. Number one, he's friends with him on Instagram. Number two, his thumbnails are very similar. Now I know what you're thinking. This evidence is really hard-hitting. It really sells the issue. There really is no doubt that Dinky Jabbo is what they say. Why would we even be here questioning it today? I know. No, I'm teasing. I'm sorry. I am friends with so many people on Instagram that I do not know anymore or that I actively hate because I literally have so much going on in my life. I could not be bothered to go and do the effort to unfriend these people. Like, they're literally worth that little of my time. Like, it's not that deep. Sometimes you just have Instagram friends and you have so much going on with your life. Your life is so full and meaningful. You're not sitting there managing your friends list. Like, good Lord, tell us you don't have a life without telling us you don't have a life. Second, oh my goodness, did you know he was I Am Alex's editor? Who do you think was making the thumbnails? Of course the thumbnails look similar. What the heck? Hopefully you're all like me and you're like ready to pull your hair out because these were like the two hardest hitting arguments they had, and I don't even remember if there were more because I was so baffled by these arguments that I literally could not function through the rest of their video trying to debate that this guy is literally like catching hands with women because of these things. But here's where it gets ridiculous. They then, over social media in public, went to this guy and started asking him if he is like a serial fighter of women. Like, they're out there in public making these accusations to him, and then he responded by basically laughing in their face and slamming the door. He said some sort of apology for following the annoying orange, obviously calling out how ridiculous their claims are. And they responded like he had just admitted everything. They were like, this is it. This is the hard-hitting evidence we needed. He has all but confessed to liking to harm women. We've done it. Congratulations. Like, I'm sorry, but you have to be pretty desperate and you have to hate someone a whole heck of a lot to think that someone rolling their eyes at you and brushing you off is confirmation of something that extreme. The thing that just grinds my gears, it harshes my mallow, it really gets me going, is that they are convinced that it's his responsibility to have simply told them no, the allegations were not true. Well, here's the thing. That would apply if they were legitimate allegations. But the only people who had connected these two random dots and decided that 2 + 2 = abusing women is them. These creators convinced themselves on the basis of like social media nonsense that some guy is pro boxing women illegally. And then they went to him and were like, you have to address the allegations. And when he laughed and went, what allegations? They went, this is it. We have proven it. You guys, the answers are here. And here's the deal. Plenty of people have called this out for the witch hunt. It is. It is a witch hunt. A witch hunt. It is a witch hunt. It definitely is. My cats are fighting. Can you hear them croaking and squeaking in the background? It is a witch hunt. But can we please talk about, not only is it just that they were trying to hunt down this guy, Dinky Jabbo, specifically the toxic behavior of these creators, Louis McClung, I want you to remember his name, and Cataclysm, remember her name, because they deserve every ounce of flack that they are getting for this. They have behaved like religious zealots. I need you guys to understand this is Puritanism. This is the toxic purity culture that we claim to despise. And the problem is we do not recognize it and address it unless we see it packaged up in obvious religious connotations or context. This is the toxic behavior of hunting down, seeking out, and destroying anything that is even associated with something that we deem impure. And I'm not saying that we should not see hurting women as impure and wrong. It's bad. But I need you to understand that this is on the same level of crazy as we look at the witch trials as being. This is someone who has a moral, elitist attitude, seeking out people they do not like, using a moral panic and a fear and a dislike of this sort of criminal activity to flesh out someone they don't like and destroy their lives. The exact same thing happened in the actual witch trials. Not only were they getting high off of funky bread, but a lot of people were using this as an opportunity to dispel and destroy people who they did not like. Many of the first people who were hunted down and killed as witches were outcasts and strange people who in some way were disliked. My sources are being obsessed with the witch trials in 10th grade and your mom. People did this as an opportunity to be vindictive. They did it as an opportunity to gain resources and land off of people who they were coveting from. And it was a way to control people and have power over people. This is the exact same malicious, controlling behavior that is being used by people like Lewis and Cataclysm. They are specifically taking the power that comes with the accusation and they are using it as a weapon in order to take down people they don't like and to increase their own morality. Being someone who breaks a story about someone who's nefarious and evil behind the scenes, there is a certain sort of social esteem that you take on from that. I would argue a whole lot that these are two people, well, more than two, because there's more than just Cataclysm and Louis McClung. They were just the big heavy hitters. That these people don't actually have an in-depth morality. They live very shallow and selfish lives, and so this is a currency to them. It's a performance that they do, and they would like to do the biggest performance of their lifetime by taking down some sort of vicious creep so that they can appear to be the best type of person there is, and they have that moral currency to use whatever else they want. Unfortunately, we saw the same sort of thing happening during the witch trials in Salem. People were frequently making accusations towards others in order to get someone's suspicion off their own back, and it was often a currency to keep you safe. If people started questioning you, all you had to do was accuse someone else of being a witch. Even those who were just accusing, when people got suspicious of them and started to point out their own strange behavior, they often made accusations to distract from their own misbehavior. I'm not saying that Lewis and his cronies have done anything wrong that they're trying to hide, but it's certainly a big currency to look morally good and morally superior and morally righteous, because it's going to protect you if anything tries to come your way, right? You can see the moral obsession and the narcissism and the obsession with his own morality in Louis McClung's so-called apology reaction thing, where he literally has to sit there and rant about how he would never put people being ugly in his thumbnail, and he goes through the effort to try and make people look nice. This is wasteful rags and useless, worthless acts of good deeds that he thinks puts him on a higher level than someone like Dinky Jabbo and gives him the ability and the authority to accuse other people. And no, I'm not going to back that up. It's just what your mom told me last night. If you really want to see it all for yourself, you can go watch his video. It's insufferable. He's obnoxious. He's coming up with all sorts of excuses, and he and his cronies have the most insufferable argument that they were just owed someone denying the accusations that they made up, that they were owed that. No, you should have gone to him and asked him. If all you needed was for him to deny it, you should have sent him a private message. And if he didn't reply, then you just have to wait for more evidence. You do not go and publicly harass a man about whether or not he has been violent towards women and then argue that him being irritated or insulted by your insinuation is evidence that he must have done it. That is on the same level as seeking out innocent members of your community, and then when they can do all the things that witches aren't supposed to be able to do, like citing the Lord's Prayer, then you still insist they must be hung and they must be a witch, and look, they have a pimple, so clearly they're trying to sell my child to the devil. I'm so glad that everyone I've seen so far is clowning on these guys, because it is so important that people see and they hate this behavior. Because a lot of times people are convinced that if they escape a religious setting like a church, that they are free from this sort of malicious behavior. But the truth is that it is not religion itself that creates this sort of behavior. It is people's insidious and vindictive natures that create this behavior, and they simply use a moral structure like religion to exact this sort of vindictive attitude and behavior. They are functioning just the same as any of those toxic old ladies in the church who are moral busybodies. They are a non-denominational, non-religious affiliated moral busybody, and they are hard at work, and just because you leave a church does not mean you will ever escape these kind of people. And it's so important to realize that the sort of insanity that causes something like the witch trials has never stemmed from being a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or anything else. It has stemmed from the pernicious and malicious behavior within all of us. We are all capable of this, regardless of whether or not we're attending a church or believing in a higher power. In the end, people like Lewis are not going to look at themselves and analyze their behavior and say for themselves and represent themselves as worshiping this God that is influencing, and they're not going to acknowledge that they do this performative moralism in order to appear good and appear moral, because they're obsessed with this sort of God of being known and influencing people and looking good to people. But this is what they do. This is their religion. It is literally the religion of appearing to be a good person and doing so in a way that gives you control over other people, or at the very least makes people supposedly like you and listen to you. And so what they're doing is they're being the moral busybody that we all know and despise from like the old ladies at church. They're doing this performative, moralistic thing that has no genuine heart or merit to it, because it gets them what they want, so they think. And so this whole thing with Jabbo, Danky Jabbo, is that they're literally just performing the steps that they see that get the most positive attention and most like moral thumbs up from other people, in order to try and gain more social merit. They're just trying to climb the ladder, and he was just a rung that they thought they could grab. And so this whole thing, why it's so insulting and so frustrating, is because they did such a poor job, number one, at a really important job of exposing horrible people who are harming innocent, vulnerable people. They did a horrible job of it. They victimized someone else, and then instead of acknowledging it and becoming genuine and genuinely embodying what it means to be a moral good person, they just go back to these basic worthless little things and try and argue that those dumb little things, like trying to make thumbnails of people that look nice, make them somehow an okay moral person who should survive being criticized for what they did. And if you're wondering if that happened, yes. When he was doing his sad little apology tour where he reacted to Danky Jabbo's frankly brutal rebuttal of the accusations, Louis McClung spent like a minute or two just whining about how he didn't look so good in the thumbnail that Danky Jabbo made, and how he would never do that, as though that somehow gave merit to anything he did or vindicated him and freed him from his crimes. No, you have not earned the grace of the public just because you make some nice thumbnails and someone else doesn't. That is not a valuable thing to add to the conversation, and yet you're so convinced that this will save you or it justifies you in some way that you argue about it and you talk about it for like minutes. What Danky Jabbo did is defend himself from insidious, unfounded, and unrealistic attacks on his character. He did nothing wrong. Louis McClung and Cataclysm are sniveling cowards who are cry bullies, who whine and cry about how much their hand hurts as they slap other people, and they are the sort of zealots who cause things like witch hunts, and they should be ashamed of themselves. If I saw these if I saw these two in the street, if I knew them in person, I would shake my head and tell them how disappointed I am in them. And if you know me, I'm a Minnesotan. That's pretty dang serious if you're being that upfront. Here's the deal. They are not sorry right now. They have made it clear that they still feel that it was Dinky Jabo's responsibility to vindicate and clear himself, rather than their responsibility to appropriately handle their own crackpot conspiracy theories. In the end, they've made it clear that despite their apologies, they blame this guy for not simply refuting the stories that they made up in their head. They feel that none of this would have gotten blown out of proportion if he had just taken them seriously, which they have no right to demand when they had no serious or legitimate evidence to suggest that he was actually doing what they said. My understanding is that they've even tried to hide behind their own disabilities and mental health issues and try and justify their behavior through other means. This is that sniveling cowardice that we see even back during the witch trials, where it was all, oh, I was just doing this for the good of the community, I was part of the hysteria, I was caught up and I believe part of it, or this was my job, I was just doing my job. It is cowardice like this that causes these sorts of issues, and yes, I'm calling them cowards. They should be absolutely ashamed of what they did, and they should be too embarrassed to say anything but I am deeply sorry, I will never do this again. Because frankly, their behavior is disgusting, it is insulting, and it takes away from real-life people's attempts to bring their abusers to light. They have irrevocably harmed the community by crying wolf like this, and their lack of understanding for their own faults is astounding and entirely expected with how much of moral busybodies they are. I think what they did is disgusting. It drives me up the wall that people like this have a platform. And yet I am so thankful that we can see what they did and hate it, because we need to understand that these people are still out there, and we need to be aware of people like this and the danger that they pose when mob mentality takes over and these people get their way. Now, in the end, these people are just humans, same as you and I, and we've all done really stupid, selfish things like they did. So if they are willing to acknowledge what they did realistically and actually take responsibility, I am more than willing to forgive them. I highly doubt it's going to happen, but if they want grace, then they should know how to get it. Admit everything was wrong. Take back what you did and try and make up for it by being an honest person who does not use their own morality to try and bludgeon other people they don't like. Be better. And for you guys, whatever you do, don't end up like someone like Louis McClung, because God is his voice annoying.